Hello and welcome to the Nashville Daily Podcast. I'm Stuart Deming. You may have noticed some changes. There's no green screen behind us with the fancy Nashville Daily. We're also not sitting at our typical table. And the reason for that is our brand new set for episode 1000 is currently under construction. And I am sitting here in the control room with Mr. Aaron Pennington.
Howdy.
He's pressing the buttons.
If anybody's, I don't know if this line of sight on my camera is weird because you're sitting like right under it, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at the camera.
I'm
kind of not.
I'm more looking at the tripod
yeah.
of the camera instead of you. But he is sitting there pushing buttons. If you're looking for real estate here in the Middle Tennessee area, you need to contact our sponsor, Brad Reynolds, thinkbrad.com. You can also subscribe to his YouTube channel, Think Brad, and the number is on the screen. I don't have that number fully memorized.
Because we don't have a screen in front of us right now.
And that's a number I have kind of 615. I can't even.
615-856-3270. I'm cheating. I do have a screen in front of me.
You have multiple screens in front of you. You have like 5 screens in front of you.
Yeah,
You can't really see it on his
I can't too much. But if you're thinking Nashville,
Think Brad.
Think Brad. Also, just in that spirit, we do have a video coming out on our YouTube channel, explore.nash, featuring Brad Reynolds.
This video is amazing.
We are very, very excited for this release. There's no way you're going to miss it. We're going to make sure you see it one way or the other. But the first place you're going to see it is at explore.nash on YouTube. So make sure you are subscribed there. Stuart and Brad go head-to-head in a Nashville trivia challenge. And it's a load of fun. Loser had to eat the hottest hot chicken from Party Foul Poultrygeist. It is something that you do not want to miss.
So while our new studio or new set is under construction, we thought we would change things up a little bit, and we wanted to talk about some of our favorite episodes. We've had the opportunity to record over or nearly 1,000 episodes of this podcast. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the show or watching on YouTube. We have talked about a lot of topics on this podcast.
Yes, we have.
Nashville food, Nashville development, the Cumberland River. We have talked about the new Titan Stadium, the new MLB team. We've talked about bombs, tornadoes, coronavirus. We've talked about
coronavirus.
Coronavirus. I don't know if you could say the actual word of it. But we've talked about so many things on this podcast, and we've had so many interviews. And that's one thing we want to do in episode 1000 is we want to reintroduce interviews to get people to...
Hooray!
Yeah, hooray. Basically to get people into the studio to learn more about them so that you can ultimately support their business or maybe their nonprofit or something. We want
their restaurant.
Yeah, the restaurant. We want people to take action, and we want to make sure that the content that we are providing for you has some type of value in your life. So over the next 2 episodes, we're going to talk about some of our favorite episodes. Today's episode is going to be focused on my favorite episodes. Tomorrow's episodes is focused on Aaron's favorite episodes that we've done. And then we have episode 999, and that's just going to be a fun episode. And then we're getting into episode 1000. So super, super fun time. We appreciate you guys listening and watching over the years. It's remarkable to sit here and say we have built this product consistently, and we have not missed an episode since August 1st of 2019.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so let's get into the top 5 favorite episodes for me.
Stuart, you have a theme.
I have a very big theme.
You have a theme with your list. What if, without saying any of the episodes on the list, what is the theme of your favorite episodes?
The theme of my favorite episodes are something that's big that happened in Nashville.
Okay.
What would you say my theme is?
Death.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of that. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into it. We are going through the archives.
But yours is very correct. Yours is very correct. Like big things, like the big events that have like shaped in some way, not necessarily all positive, but just have had an impact on Nashville.
Well, the thing I like about these episodes, and one of them is just going to be a standout episode by itself, but the thing I liked about these episodes is the amount of research and time that you and I put into each of these categories, and I feel that these episodes are some of our best pieces of work. The only unfortunate thing is most of these episodes were when we were just an audio-only podcast. So if you've been watching on YouTube for the first 614 episodes of this podcast, we strictly did audio. And the really cool thing about that time is for a while it happened at my house. But the first 150 episodes or so, we traveled all throughout the city of Nashville in Middle Tennessee and recorded in the most random places.
Yep.
Like under a train bridge, near a waterfall. We have recorded in random places. And then finally, episode 615, 615, we came out with our first video podcast. So we've been doing almost 400 episodes of a video podcast. So that talks a little bit about the evolution of our show. This is in no straight time order. This is just the top 5 episodes of my favorite in the archives. And the first one is, where do I want to start?
No, just start with the first one that you have listed.
All right, so in 2020, there was a bombing that happened on Christmas Day. And one of the best episodes that I think we did is we were asking and posing the question of what caused this bomb to happen in downtown Nashville. And so we titled this episode, like the aliens are coming. And we were talking about the conspiracy theories around the Nashville Day
because there were
bombing.
a lot.
Yeah, we could talk about a few of them.
Yeah.
One was that there was lizard people that lived in downtown Nashville. That was
I think like underground, right?
Underground in the tunnels, yeah. Another conspiracy theory was it was a Chinese laser from space. Another conspiracy
Forgot about that one.
Another conspiracy theory was like actual aliens. And then another conspiracy theory was the satellites. There's also
there was also the missile. There's a conspiracy theory that a missile was dropped.
Yeah, and then there's the conspiracy theory of the voting machines, which
I forgot about that.
Depends on who you talk to. But it was just such a fascinating episode of answering and posing these questions. Hey, was this a Chinese laser, or was this lizard people? Or was it a combination of all? And part of the reason it was one of my favorite episodes is I think we did really well with highlighting everything that happened with the bombing. We had some amazing episodes with Buck McCoy, and then we also had an episode with Pete Gibson, and it was just a great time of learning about these individuals that were affected by the bombing, but posing those questions around a conspiracy theory. It's a fun conversation.
Well, I mean, who would have thought that we would have started our podcast and then just a few months later there was a tornado, COVID, a bomb in downtown Nashville. Right. So, I mean, just who would have thought that we would have had all of that happen just within a few years of starting this show? And one of the favorite things that you and I talk about all the time is we get to, I mean, this was a crazy time for Nashville, and we got to every weekday document by talking about what's going on. Got to document this stuff, which was absolutely incredible. And by the way, if you want to listen to all these wild episodes that we're talking about, in our show notes are these episodes. So you can go and listen to these wild episodes that we're talking about.
Well, one thing I love to do is I have these episodes, so like these are my top 5 favorite that we've done. And I go back occasionally and I listen to those episodes. So like today, January, whatever, that we're filming this, I will go back to that time 3 years ago
and listen to what it was like before COVID.
And it's crazy, like the amount of growth that was happening at that time. And COVID wasn't even a thing. It was a thing, but it wasn't a thing that was talked about.
It wasn't here in the U.S. yet.
Maybe,
at that point,
maybe. Yeah, maybe it was. But listening to those archive episodes, you're just like, wow, there's been so much changes, and that's when we still talked about events every single day.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
There was a time in the podcast we would talk about the top 5 events happening that day, and I'm like, how in the world did we maintain that schedule plus everything else?
We had lists of like 20 events if it was real busy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of events happening.
And that was when our episodes were still like 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm like, wow, we've invested a lot of time into the show. All right, number 2. We had the opportunity in the beginning of our show to really dive deep into the topic of the Civil War. The Civil War is one of my favorite things to talk about. It's one of my favorite things to study. It's one of my favorite things to learn about. And the first Civil War episode that we did was in the attic of the Carton House, which is down in Franklin. And we recorded this podcast talking about the Battle of Franklin inside of the Carton House, where there was multiple bodies that were buried on the property. 1,500 Confederate soldiers were buried on the properties. Just the history.
It was during the battle. It was used.
Yes, it was used as
a field hospital.
And just being able to sit in the attic of that building where so much American and Nashville history happened, you're just like, I can't believe I'm recording a podcast in this. And
that's pretty wild.
The coverage that we have done here on the Civil War, we've done the Battle of Nashville, we've done the Battle of Franklin, we've done the Battle of Stones River, we've dove deep into kind of like Fort Dover and Fort Donelson. We've talked about these different things. Fort Dover is not a thing; it's Fort Donelson in Dover, Tennessee. But we've talked about these different things, and I've been able to learn so much about the Civil War and how it's impacted American culture and how it's still affecting things today and relationships today.
Right, because to think about it'd be impossible to think about what these cities would be like if even minor changes to the Civil War happened. Still the same outcome, but minor changes. Nashville would still be completely different.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for all of the history that I've been able to learn while doing the research for this podcast, to be able to pose those questions of the why and the how, and how did they make this work with 60,000 men rushing at each other in the Battle of Franklin? So fascinating to learn about that. So my next favorite episode is going to take you guys for a loop, but this was one of the Nashville Story episodes that we did. And if you don't know what the Nashville Story was, it was our Saturday feature of special interviews with business owners and artists and musicians here. And we tried doing that for a long time, and then it was just getting too much, and so that we stopped that product.
People didn't watch Saturdays. People are having fun on Saturdays.
That's true, yeah.
And it didn't fit within the rest of our lineup of shows. So
yeah,
we're like, there's gonna be a time
where it's coming.
Where it's coming. So
episode 1000.
Which it's here.
It's coming. So we are reintroducing interviews, but this interview with Justin Sigel, he's what would he be classified as? A fast artist, fast painter?
I think I can't remember the exact term, but it's similar to like a live experience type artist where it has to do with painting live, essentially.
Live and painting fast. So like he could do like a painting in like 3 minutes, and it's like super intense, amazing. So he's a huge TikTok following, and he told this story of how he did this painting for this family, and that story just really impressed on my heart what he was doing. So that's actually one of my favorite interviews that we've ever done on the show. It is fascinating. It's in the show notes if you want to watch that interview. And I actually think that was one of the only podcast episodes I actually teared up in out of 1,000 episodes. I've teared up in a few of our videos, mostly eating hot chicken, but that was one of the ones like I actually teared up to. Okay, so the next series that was my favorite to cover was the coverage that we did for the tornado in 2020. This was right at the moment when Nashville was about to shut down in 2020, but we had this huge EF3 tornado come through our city and devastated Middle Tennessee. Over $2 billion of damage, 27 people lost their lives. That coverage that we did, and then the man on the street interviews that we did, just everything about that time.
The day of,
Yeah, everything about that time is just, I can't believe I have the opportunity to talk in detail about these things. And just I'm very proud of the coverage that we did during that season of the tornado transitioning into, not the tornado transitioning, but the tornado, and then the time where COVID really started to affect, and then the city shut down. Like, I'm glad and proud of the coverage that we have, so that in 5 years, I could listen to that archival recording that we made on those particular days, and I can have the flashbacks. I can have the memories of that time.
Yeah, and just because you never know in 10 years, it's going to be what was it like here during COVID and shutdowns, and you're like, well, there's businesses closed, and then they slowly started, memories, they start to fade, and but we have the really the day by day breakdown of what happened there, and we're like, oh yeah, forgot restaurants went between like half capacity and a quarter capacity, and then totally shut down.
There's no dancing in Nashville because dancing spread COVID.
And then they banned dancing for a little bit, like the town of Footloose, and So it really is cool to listen back and see, wow, I totally forgot about that little detail.
Yep.
That was the talk of the town on that day or that
Yep.
week.
And the cool thing is having that archival. Like, I know there's plenty of news outlets in here in town that have the archival footage and of moments and of stories and stuff. But being able to listen to an audio description of what was happening is a way different experience than reading or watching all these old videos. It's just like it takes you back in time, and so that's a really interesting thing. Another thing that I was really proud of the coverage that we did. And this all happened in 2020, and I'm really proud of the product that we have today. But these were moments and memories that really stand out to me. Is our coverage on the 10-year anniversary of the flood that happened throughout Nashville, and that happened on May 1st of 2020. We had 5 or 6 episodes, but we did an episode in particular, and you'll probably remember this title, Aaron. Was the most expensive sausage biscuits. That title has literally stayed in my mind forever. And I think we have some really great titles for some of our
I
episodes.
don't remember what we were talking about with that.
This is what the story was. And I remember this story. We were on the phone with this guy, and it was a person that you knew, I believe, from Lipscomb or something. You knew this person somehow.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about this story in Bellevue and how it was either his mother or one of his in-law or somebody in his family would keep all of her cash in the freezer in the sausage biscuit box. That refrigerator ended up floating away, and then that box...
That's right.
And I believe that box was later found somewhere, and it had like thousands of dollars in it. And so it's just this most expensive like sausage biscuit box because it had like so much money in it. And just these stories that we were able to talk about for that 10-year anniversary of the flood are just, they're so impressed into me now. And I'm like remembering these titles of these episodes, and I'm like, wow, I'm so fascinated to hear these stories from these individuals that suffered through this time. And so it's just, it's interesting. So these are the top 5 or so of my favorites. We have done so much content on this podcast, from development news to food news to politics to what's happening in a state level to a local level. I'm excited for what changes are going to happen after episode 1000. We have a lot in store, and let us know in the comments below, what's your favorite episode of the Nashville Daily podcast?
Yeah, please let us know, because we would love to hear the things that are impacting you and what you think are stories that are worth being talked about. And we're excited to bring back those interviews again. A quick shout out to Screen Threads for also sponsoring this episode. If you want to use the code Nashville Daily to get 10% off online or in person, you can do that at Screen Threads in Marathon Village or at screenthreads.com. Again, let us know in the comments your favorite episodes. What did you think of the episodes that we listed here? This is Stuart's list. Tomorrow is going to be my list of the top 5. Will I have any of that match Stuart's, or will they be totally different? We'll find out tomorrow. See you there.